Happy Monday. So I was out working on my Supra and I got it parked up in the top of the driveway and it looks pretty cool. But then I was like, I should probably move it down since, I mean, it'd be good to get it near the garage or at least in the garage again or something. And then it broke. Right in the center of your screen there is the water pump pulley. Now, normally that thing is supposed to spin and not move around, but my water pump just jiggles. Now this is incredibly annoying because, well, I wanted to get the car almost ready for paint. The plan was to relocate this trim to the right spot, same on the back and then on the opposite side, but instead we have to fix the car first. In the grand scheme of things, does this really matter? Absolutely, it makes me mad. That's why it matters. So we're gonna go ahead and put the water pump on, let the gasket material start drying, and then begin to relocate the trim. So let's just start with the water pump, shall we? Well, that 1 hour job took 2 days, so yeah, we're a little behind schedule. But the car idles and runs great now, so that's the most important. Last episode we made these side vents and I still haven't attached them fully on the bottom, but you guys know how that works because you saw the video. And this week, we are going to be moving the trim. So we need to take the trim from right here and move it up to in line with the rest of the trim, and same on the black. And the process for this is actually fairly simple. What we're going to be doing is we're gonna cut out this bottom trim, cut out this little extra emblem piece that we're just not gonna need, and then we're gonna take this trim, trace it over here, cut that piece out, replace this piece up there, and put the cutout down here. That sounds like a lot of steps that can be a little confusing, but it's as simple as cut it and replace. So you'll see it quite plainly as we get working. So the first step that we need to do is to cut the pieces out. Alright, so we've done 2 steps. The first one was cutting out the trim, and the second place was actually getting some of the pieces to replace it. Now, it probably was really quick and you may not have noticed, but this is the piece that we cut out from the bottom right here. So that fits perfectly there. And as you may have seen, we traced that up here. So that way, when we put this in, it's already cut to the exact size that we need. The even better part is, since this being a flat piece, we could take the existing piece and that fits in there. So we now have our 2 pieces already remade, and so what we're going to do next, we're gonna take fiberglass filler, essentially glue these in place, wait for them to dry, and then we'll put fiberglass on the back to permanently seal them in, filler across the top, prime it, and then we're done. It's a fairly simple process. Of course, it takes a little time, but that's about it. So let's go ahead and get some fiberglass filler mixed up and get these pieces set in place. All right, it's been roughly 35-45 minutes since we put the filler on, and it's hard enough to where we're going to take things off and now put fiberglass over the backside so this is solidly secured. But let me show you where we have a little bit of a hiccup that isn't really necessarily that big of a deal though. Here on the front, you can see on the top we have that trim lined up really well with the existing trim on the Supra, but there's a huge gap below that and it needs to be filled in. So this is gonna be pretty simple. All we need to do is just tape across there, and then once we flip this over to put the fiberglass, we'll just go right across and it's not even an issue. Now, the reason that I'm pointing this out is simply because I know a lot of times when things don't go as perfectly as you plan them in your mind, it can be really frustrating and easy to lose heart. But the cool thing that I've learned as I've grown is that laying fiberglass is so easy and it fixes so many body mistakes so quickly. So we're gonna put the fiberglass on the back, fill the front, have this sanded, and it's gonna be looking as if this is the way it came from factory really soon. So let's get these flares off, flip them over, and put some fiberglass on. So at this stage we finished gluing in the pieces and putting the fiberglass on the back, and now it's time to lay our first layer of body filler. Now it's definitely going to need to take more than one layer of body filler, but since this is the last bit of work we're actually going to need to do in regards to trimming the back fenders, it's time for me to finish preparing the whole fender. This meaning that by the end of the episode, all fenders are going to be completely primed in black. So what we need to do now is lay a thick layer of body filler over everything, anticipating that most of it is going to be sanded off, but it'll give us a true vision at what needs to be addressed and what doesn't. There is one other thing I wanted to point out though. I didn't relocate this back trim, and there was essentially two reasons for it. The first reason is that if I make this whole thing just flat, to me it's going to look a little weird, and secondly, I think I might use a diffuser to edge all the way up to there in that trim underneath it, and I think it'd be best to leave it there for now. Now with the way it sits on the car, it's at such a different angle with the back of the flare protruding out and then going back in that I really don't mind it being there. It's not something that I look at like I did with the other parts of the trim that we relocated and said this needs to change, and in fact I looked at it and said, hey, that's a cool little addition to the back flare. So it's just not something that I feel like needs to be addressed and needs to be changed. So we're not going to do it. We're not going to do work that doesn't need to be done, but we do need to put body filler on, so let's go ahead and get that done. I was given a Visa gift card and I literally have spent every last dime on Dr. Pepper. I don't regret it though. So we finished sanding the first layer of body filler down, and it is looking good, and it's looking like we have more work to do. The back filler is actually looking the best so far. All the excess body filler is sanded down pretty well to the point where it is going to need another layer, but I'm actually pretty happy with the amount I put down. As for the middle piece that connects to the back flare here, it's also pretty decent on the bottom end, the middle end a little low, and the top end needs a little work as well. And this front piece needs the most work. Now it's a little hard to tell, but right under the trim piece, it's just a little bit too much of a deficit, so I need to add more on there. But we have another step that comes before all of that. Now you'll remember at the beginning of when I was pulling the flares off, I said I'm gonna have all these flares primed black by the time this episode is over, which means that we're gonna have to run another layer of filler for the entire flare most likely in order to get it perfect. Now we're not gonna cover the whole flare in filler, but there's a chance we're gonna have to sort out some areas that I have not seen that I don't know are wrong. So our next step is actually to prime the flares, but not for the final time. What we're going to do is we're gonna prime all these flares completely black, and even though we still need to do more layers of filler, we're gonna prime them all black. The reason being that you can see so many more imperfections when the whole flare is one color. For example, this being black, this being gray, this being multicolored filler, same with all these other pieces. It's just kind of hard to tell where some divots are because, well, there's no difference in the contrast of the shading of the light and the dark, which is where you'd indicate which areas are low and high. And although using your hand to feel is a really good indicator as well, it's just not perfect sometimes. So we're going to prime the flares completely black, wait for that to dry, and this way we're going to be able to add filler in every single area of the flare that we can now easily see is high or low. This is my 6th Dr. Pepper since that last shot, so that's a bunch of Dr. Peppers consumed, or I guess it's past tense have consumed. It's a lot of Dr. Peppers consumpted. So we have our second layer of primer done this time after we're doing more body filler on the areas below. And as you can see, it's looking a whole lot smoother. Now we're on to the pinhole filler step for smoothing the body work out, but there's one thing I want to do first. I want to mount the flares back up on the car so I could trim them up. We put a lot of excess on the flares, especially the add-on here and the front flare, and I want to trim it up before we do our final pinhole filler. I previously left it on because it's just easiest to do extra and then trim it off later to the perfect size, so that way you don't accidentally round edges or whatever it may be. So we are now at that point where it's time to trim. So we're going to take the Supra, bring it down to here, mount these back up, trim them, take them off, put the pinhole filler on, then sand it and prime it one last time. another one. All right, so here's where we're at, and this is where I need you guys to let me know what you think, because just let me explain. So at this point, we have the trim raised on the back and on the front, and it's 90% done, but that last 10% is why I want you guys to help me out. So areas like here are really smooth and good to go, but there's small little nicks up top, as you can see in the center of your screen, that just need to be gone over again with filler putty. Now I could do that, but the issue is that every time I do, it pushes the video and the process back further and further, and it's such small differences that, well, by the time I got it done, I've essentially spent another day, possibly day and a half, 2 days, putting a video back, not to actually show you guys any work, because you already know that the process of putting filler on, letting it dry, sanding it, and priming it has already been done. So essentially what I'm going to do is, at this point, we're calling it good to go. I'm gonna mount these flares up so you guys can see exactly what they look like with the trim relocated, which was the point of the video anyway. And then we're gonna end the video, and I'm gonna go back and off camera fix all these small tiny little details that essentially are just busy work that would push the video back and wouldn't actually really be shown on a video anyway. So here's what I'm asking. I'm asking, do you guys mind that we get to this point, I show you the entire process, and that we stop and put these flares up and say, hey, this is good, we got our goal done, and then off camera I do those small little fine detail behind the scenes works to get everything smoothed up? Or do you guys mind waiting an extra however many days, possibly week or whatever, for myself to finish getting these flares absolutely perfect and then put on the car? Because from a working standpoint, I feel like it's more beneficial to get the large majority of work done and show you guys the processes and produce a video that's efficient and effective over producing a video that has perfect beginning to end product results. So let me know which style you guys prefer most, if it really matters to you, or if I'm just overthinking the situation I'm at. But for this video, we're gonna put the flares back on the car so we can take a look at it as one final product with the trim relocated. We have successfully relocated the trim. Also, full disclosure, I totally forgot to do that middle piece when preparing these other pieces, so that's kind of a mess. But the rest looks so good. Lines right up with the trim all the way to the front. That is perfect. I'm so glad I got that done. This has been on the list for so long to finish up, and finally we got it. And with that, we're finished. We are at the point where it's officially time to start prepping for paint. Now this is gonna take a while to get the car completely ready for paint because there's so much to do. So we're gonna take things in stages. We're gonna work our way from the front of the car to the back of the car, getting things ready step by step over a few different episodes, because this is not gonna happen in just one episode. In addition, we're painting the Miata as well. The reason that we're painting the Miata is, well, it needs new paint, and it was on the bucket list of, hey, this would be kind of cool to do sometime. And secondly, well, a Miata is a tiny car, and the body's in pretty decent condition already, so it's just the perfect car to practice on. So there will probably be an episode, or not probably, there will be an episode where we completely prep and paint the Miata, and that will be my practice run before the Supra. Now I do need to quickly pre-apologize for some of the upcoming videos, because we're getting into my unknown realm, where I can kind of have an estimate of how long it's going to take to do like what we did, doing body work to that extent, but I've never painted the car before legitimately. So this is going to be a whole new setup for me, including taking the time to have to clear out my parents' garage so I could use it as my paint booth. So that's going to take a while in and of itself to set things up. I'm going to take you guys along the journey with me, but I just want to let you know where we're at, because this is going to be a lot more of a learning stage for me than it will be, hey, let's try to produce something, than it will be to have an incredibly exciting project like what we're doing with the Supra. So I apologize for that, but it's an incredibly important step more than anything else. So with that, I'd love to have you guys support as we go forward with this. Feel free to check out the link to the merch. I actually bought the domain Supra.com, so it's as simple as that. Type that into the browser, check out everything we have there. Hopefully new stuff will be coming soon. I'm working on some designs that should be released within the next month, so be looking forward to that. But in the meantime, thank you guys so much for watching. Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the content and want to see more, and I will see you guys next time. Adios.